Hello, I am David W. Parker. This is Programming Today I Learned. Today we're going to do a little different. We're just going to go ahead and explore the SvelteKit examples today. And you're just going to kind of do it with me in sync. I haven't really looked into them too much, just very, very briefly. I took the time to clone the Github Repo and set it up. So that's only the only real prerequisite. You can do that, and then we can go ahead and take a look at these together. We'll look a little bit at the documentation and kind of just explore on the whole, but let's go ahead and get diving into this. So let's just kind of like look real quick over at the repo. So this is the repo. I went ahead and cloned already. And like I said, I followed along with this documentation here to install PNP-M, as well as going ahead and setting it up and building it. And then it says run PNP dev inside the packages kit to continually build. You can also navigate to the examples and running PNP dev to run the examples. So we see in here, the examples folder, we have 4 different examples. So let's go ahead and dive into what each of those are. Real quick before I begin, let me just state that I've already have a few episodes recorded with the Svelte Sapper application that are going to be coming out shortly over the next few days, next week or so. I will be doing an example of us converting and migrating from that Svelte Sapper to SvelteKit. It is in public beta still, so be very clear if you look on their website that it says at the very top that it is not even 1.0 yet. So it's a work in progress. Sapper is still fine to use. I will be migrating my projects over slowly. That being said, do what is most comfortable for you and your company and your business. And yeah, that's it. So I will be doing that migration myself. We'll walk through it. But for now, let's just look at these examples. So I'm in the SvelteKit demo one first. And I'll just do, I think it said PNP and run dev. And this will get going. And we can just kind of hide that for a moment. Okay, it's listening on 3000. Let's actually go ahead and open up what we're looking at here. I'll just open up the source folder here, an app, and we can kind of click around from there once we get to it. So 3000. So here's the example using Vite with server-side rendering. It's got the home page, an about page, a blog, and these are all lorem ipsum. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at what we got. So it looks like we have very similar to Sapper. We have, Svelte head instead of Sapper, etc. We have a setup, and I believe this is used for the server-side rendering, but it seems to may not be used in this application. We have layout here, and you can see it says $sign layout instead of underscore, so that's something new to take note of, as well as there are aliases here for lib. We have a pre-render true here. I need to turn off git lens. I'm going to leave it on for the moment, but actually, bear with me here. You know what? I'm just not even gonna worry about it. Sorry. So we have a couple of root styles here for the entire document in this layout. And here's the index file. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first. So we're setting Svelte head here instead of Sapper head. We have the title of home. That's up here. We have everything else looks pretty much the same as you kind of expect, with some script tags, some HTML, and then some style tags down below. Over here in the about page, it's the same, so it's all very, very this pre-render. And then in blog, let's see, we have an index. And then slugs, as you can see, are still using the brackets, just like they did in Sapper. And instead of preload function here, we have load as the new name. And it gives a fetch object, so you don't have to call it this.fetch. If we click over here to the docs, there is a migration guide that talks a lot about the differences between Sapper. We can go over all of this as well momentarily. But like I said, Sapper-based Sapper instead of using Svelte. $sign renames. Load has been changed to preload, or preload has been changed to load. And instead of having this page, it also has the fetch, which replaces this.fetch. And then it's going to go ahead and grab everything from blog.json and return that. Everything else is very, very simple and the same as before. And it's going to go ahead through the normal Svelte syntax of an each loop and grabbing each as putting them out as a list item. So you can clearly see that on the blog page and with a little bit of styling for it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the blog JSON. So that's going to be this JSON TypeScript file here. So this is going to render out the blog JSON. And you can see it's going to go grab the posts from this post TypeScript file. And it's going to make a GET request and iterate through the keys of each post and map them to have the slug with then the remaining as the body. Go ahead and take a look at those posts real quick. So it's just a small little object here that has a title and a body as well as a key. And it's pretty simple. If we go ahead and click into a slug, you can see we have the slug URL up here, which is dynamic. So that's based on this page param slug is where it's going to be loaded. So you get that dynamically by having the bracket syntax. And then it's going to go ahead and fetch that slug for each JSON file and render it. And it's going to input it out. And then, of course, just like we've done before, or if it's very common, we can use the add HTML to render out the HTML version of this blog. So here is the individual slug. And it's going to do the same thing as the index one, except the main difference is it's going to go ahead and grab the slug and the post and return the body of each. So where we have the params of that slug. So we're going to go ahead and say, hey, if you have any slugs, go ahead and grab the one that corresponds correctly. And if we don't find it, return a 404. So this is probably the most basic of the examples. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other ones that we have here. We'll do the sandbox next. Invalid count value. So that was another thing is when I ran this very briefly the other day, there was a lot of the issues came up where it just wouldn't run certain things. So like now I'm going to run it in npm instead of pnpm. And you may have issues on your machine. Like I said, this is public beta. So there's a lot of issues that haven't been 100% resolved yet. So take that with a grain of salt as you're developing. So this is the traditional Svelte application where you can go ahead and click, and it adds one to your click balance or click variable here. Oh, we missed the answer. As well as this little doublet down here. So let's go ahead and look at what this documentation shows for this little application. So we're in the sandbox, source. Again, let's just actually briefly look at some of this other stuff. I didn't show you this before, so we should do that. We have this new svelte.config file you need to be aware of. So in the other one, it's using every Svelte kit is going to use an adapter, and they have a bunch of different adapters. And then this target is going to be the ID within the template, I believe, here of where the Svelte application is loading. So in this instance here, same thing. It's the adapter of node. And I haven't looked at, again, all of the configuration that's possible with Vite and with SvelteKit, but we'll kind of like explore it together. And as I dig in more within my applications and building out the real life project, we will explore even more. So I can't explain these at the moment, but we will definitely be digging into those as we go. This was checked out just the other night, so a lot of these issues that as I'm recording these may already be fixed too. So they're doing active work on this a lot. So we'll just kind of explore today. So here is, this one does have the setup, whereas the other one didn't. This one's going to provide a context with a value of answer of 42 and an extra header called xfoo of banana. And within the get session, it's going to take in that context and return it. And I bet you that when we look into it here, we will have that be imported. In fact, we do, yes. So here we have the session, and we have that answer which has been provided through that context. So again, we'll go back to the setup. We have this prepare here. It's going to set a context of answer. Get session as its own function here. It's going to take in that context and return it. So this is going to return this object here, which is then being set to on the session. And so then we could set it as props that are being passed down into our function here with this answer. We have the lib counter here. And I believe, I don't know where we end up setting the aliases at yet. Like I said, we're just kind of exploring this together right now. I'll have to take a look at another time to find out where those aliases are coming from, but here is the lib, obviously, and here's a doubler. This is just a function that acts like a post, so let's go ahead and look at each of these in turn. So we already know how this works. This is replacing preload. It's taking the session, it's passing props down with an answer. We're going to go ahead and grab this counter component. The answer comes from this load above, and we have a new result. We have a new function here called handle submit, and it's going to go ahead and make a fetch with a certain type of action provided to it. So in this instance, you could see it's been provided with this doubler, which is this function here, as a post, which is why this is a post. It gets a body in, it takes it, it gets a numerical value, or it gets that num value, and then it returns the original and then the doubled version of that. And you can see here's the name of the num as well. So that's the method that has been passed. So it's kind of nice. This little handle submit form has access to the action and method, and the form data is the data that is provided here, which is the body. So that's this body here, and we're going to get the value for the num, which is this name here. And then we're going to go ahead and set it to our result of the awaited JSON response, which is this right here. And within that, we're going to go ahead and grab the result. And if there is one, using the normal Svelte syntax, we're going to say, here's the original, and then here's the doubled value. We're going to have a little bit of styling down here. And then let's go ahead and take a look, because we have this other counter object here as well. And that's just being displayed here. So let's look inside of this itself. Again, this is very standard. This is the simple Svelte application that's demoed quite often. It's going to have its own count you can pass in. It's export, so that means this can be passed in as a prop if we wanted to. It's going to default to 0. It has a singular function called increment where we add 1. When you click on this button, it's going to use the on handler with click event to call the function of increment. and it's going to display it out. And then we have a little bit of styling here. So that is this one here. Okay, let's continue on with our examples. Let's do the Hacker News one now. If you're not on Hacker News, you should take a look. It's a kind of a decent-ish place to explore tech things, but then it can get kind of political as well sometimes. So we have the little Svelte logo here. We have some different tabs, as well as a jobs tab, and we have an about page. So this is as it's built with Sapper. This is no longer the case. So like again, this is out of date. App is hosted on Cloud Run using Cloudflare for CDN. Source code is here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the source code looks like for this version of it. And let's go ahead and close these last two. So we have a TypeScript config here. We have our Svelte config. Nothing is different here within this, except we do have a different adapter, netlify. As you can see, the adapter, instead of being adapter node, it's adapter netlify. We'll explore the adapters in a later episode. It has a netlify toml, which is probably is a netlify specific file for them deploying. And everything else, we have a global CSS. And let's go ahead and take a look at our app. It looks like we have a dark theme, which is why it's dark here, and it's going to use the window match media. So this is just using the one built into my computer. I have dark theme on, so that's why that is defaulting there. And let's go ahead and look at our application here and local storage, and you can see theme is dark, which is what they're setting. And then we have our global CSS. If we go ahead and look in that, you can see here is the HTML, and here's html.dark, which is what we're setting the theme to. And that is that. Let's go ahead and continue on with our application here. Oh, by the way, they're adding the HTML theme dynamically here from the storage theme. Now here's the thing is, this is probably a bug that they didn't think of. If they don't have the theme here, this could error out, which is why they catch, and they just log it out here if it fails to get it. So, okay, back into the app here. We have let's go to the about page because it's the simplest. It's basically a very simple page, just like all the others, so not very exciting. The layout and $error, again, replacing the old ones. Same thing, $app to get access to the information from the stores here. I believe these two are going to be provided by SvelteKit itself. Yes, this is the page. And so this is going to be a new type of thing. So navigating is new, it looks like. And then so we have preloading indicator and a theme toggler, as well as a nav. Let's take a look at each of those in turn. Let's look at the nav first. So the nav is going to take a section in just like Sapper did. And we're going to display out. So we have the prefetch before in Sapper. Now it has a prefix of SvelteKit prefetch. I believe it's actually been changed to Sapper prefetch in Sapper proper right now. We're going to use the selector here to see which the section is. The section is, of course, let me see if we're passing anything in this one. So page, path, split, and grabbing the second one here. So we're going to grab this little spot, or this, new, etc. So that's getting passed down as section. It's using the reactive syntax here, so it'll change depending on if the page path changes, and getting passed down here as the section. So that way we can check the value and give it the selected class if necessary. So if we look down here, you can see the selected class is set to relative inline block with this color of this FG. So that's how they're getting this little underline here. And they're prefetching, which means it's going to load the data as I hover over it to make it seem faster. Well, not even seem faster, I make it be faster. And that is the nav. Let's go ahead and jump over to the preloading indicator. And I believe that's this little thing at the little top bar there. So you can see we're going to call onMount from Svelte just like we normally would. We're going to set it to being visible false. Once we've mounted, we're going to go ahead and set it true. And we're going to slowly preload, show a progress, I guess, of some percentage as it loads the value from each of these. You could see that one was really fast. Let me see. I guess this is going to be the slowest one, but I already have it loaded now. So it's kind of very brief, but it's a very common construct. You'll see that little loader indicator bar at the very top with some percentage of it filled as it loads. And that's really all this is. And then he has it set up to go ahead and fade out after it's finished. Theme toggle. This is being used at the bottom here. I guess I'm not seeing it. Let me see. Main slot theme. Oh, maybe it's only on the show page. In fact, I am not. Oh, it's down here. Down here in the bottom right. And this is just a way to toggle back and forth the light and dark mode. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Just to show off my theme toggle, I do the same thing in Svelte here. I don't have a fade in or out, and then of course I have a color theme selector on my application, because who doesn't want to have 12 different color themes in both light and dark mode? So check that out if you get a chance. Okay, so back to their app here. It says the theme, tries to grab the local storage theme. We catch if it's server-side rendering. And then we have a toggle selection that basically just toggles it and sets it to the new theme. Then we go ahead and we say whether or not we want it to toggle. Class is nice. So nice is, I guess, the outline here. So if we want it to be outlined. So they're setting that on mouse down and blur. So that is that. And then, of course, this is the icon itself, this little SVG here. And then they're positioning it in the very bottom right. So nice little theme toggle, which is fun to have. And then, of course, the slot is the information itself. So that is the whatever is going to be filled into the middle, since this is the layout. So we have a user page. If we go click on a user, let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's click on Tosh here. User Tosh failed to load. So it looks like this API here is not requesting the proper information, or it's not working or something along those lines. And they're not handling that. They're assuming it's going to work. But in general, it would make a request to this page, grab the JSON, grab that information out, and display some of their information. Not too uncommon. The individual item page, this is the ID. So if we're back here, you can see item and then some ID. So we're going to go ahead and use that same API and it seems to be working well with this page. And we're going to go and pass those as props down. So again, this is one of the differences between Sapper and Svelte. So we have to go ahead and pass it as within the props object, and then it'll be imported as this export let item here. And we're going to display it out. A lot of very just standard Svelte stuff here, you know, if statement, domain, and then we're going to go to how many points are here. And this is all information returned from this API. So I would say, look at this Hacker News Progressive Web App API if you want to have the details of that, but it's just very standard stuff here. And then, of course, grabbing comments out and using this comment object or component within this. So you'll see this still has the underscore. So underscore is reserved for components that shouldn't be rendered as pages. So you can't go to item/component or item/item or list/item summary here. So that's the way to go ahead and keep your stuff still solely yours. So you're not going to use the dollar syntax there. You'll use the underscore syntax. So if you look in here, you can say if it's not deleted. Here we'll show some stuff here. SvelteKit prefetch is the same, and the rest is very, very, very standard CSS and Svelte. And I didn't see where the icons were being used. For fold and unfold. Here we go, into the comments. Here you could see they're grabbing the meta bar for icons and fold here, and as well as the unfold. So they're the background on each of these for the comments. I'm not seeing them on hover here, so I'm not sure exactly when they're showing up. So, but they would be here. Oh, I guess I'm not sure why they're not showing up here, but again, this is what they perform when you click them. As you click, you unhide and hide it. So there should be a thing there, but anyway, neither here nor there. This is, again, beta, and we're just kind of exploring it. I might have issues on my machine. They may have issues there. Back to the list page here. These are the list pages. So we'll have the page, and it's gonna. So he has a new set. These are the ones we can have. We're gonna load, and then say what list it is. And as long as it's one of the valid ones, we'll go ahead and if it's not, we'll say a 404. Otherwise, we'll make an API call to this, again, same API that we've been using, and return a list of props with the page number, the list that it has, and the items within it. We're going to set a couple of reactive variables for the start as well as the next, and then we'll iterate through and have the item summary, which is just each little line here. It'll take the index and item. This is the index going to be displayed out here, I'm sure. So if we look at that, yeah, index. And then we have each item displayed out as well with the URL, et cetera, et cetera. The user. So all of these are using the prefetch. So that way we can have this application load as fast as possible, and we don't have to show that progressive loading bar unless we really need to, because it should already be loaded. And that's kind of this little application. We have an RSS feed too. Let's see if we can go to that and see how that works. Cannot see redirect. Get. I'm not sure if we have a link to the RSS anywhere. If it's, oops, here we go. List RSS. Oh, that's why. Let's go back here. We're on the show page. If we do /RSS here, that's where it would be. So it looks like they're having some kind of type error here. If we look in our code, you can see they have cannot read body of undefined. So again, it's public beta. So something in here is being undefined and not returning the RSS properly. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the last one. And it's the real world example. This is the one I had the most issues with when I kind of very, very briefly glanced at it before, but it was also one of the more exciting ones because it has, well, it's like a real world application. So let's go ahead and let's load up the config here. And so it uses this API to hit a real application that has other people's random data on it. So again, no external node fetch, adapter node. We'll look at those in a future episode. Doesn't seem like there's anything different here. They're using marked to use markdown. Static. Nothing really different in the manifest or anything like that. So let's go ahead and look right into the source. So they're loading Google font and this production ready. This is where the API is hosted, is this production ready website. Setup. We are returning an empty context as well as empty headers. Get session is going to return that empty context, and it says to do. So it looks like they have some work they're working on. Let's look in lib. We have a lot of stuff here. We're going to go through this one a lot faster than the others just because I don't want this video to be too long. So our regular layout here is going to call libnav. Let's go ahead and take a look at that nav. So that's up here. And we have the prefetch for home. I'm just trying to look out things that are spell specific here. We have checking the path if it's /editor or /active settings. So again, this is just doing a little different than the other one did where I was passing down the segment. You'll notice that we're using the app stores again to get a page in session, whereas in Sapper, you would have used the, you would have imported stores and then grabbed it from the stores object. I believe they have a bug in this application for that. Let me go to the settings page. When I played with it briefly, they did here. So yeah, so this is the bug that I saw before. You can see that they're still calling stores, but the stores doesn't exist because this was a Sapper thing. They haven't completely converted this page yet to it. This may be, again, maybe fixed and solved by the time you take a look at this, but this is just a quick overview. So this is going to be signing in and signing out if there's a session user or not. Let's go ahead. I believe I had a sign in. When I tried this before, it blew up all sorts on me. So let's just try some different things. Yeah, like syntax error on here. But then when I went ahead and logged in as it still worked. Oh, not going to work on this time. Yeah, so there are some issues around this application in terms of doing different things, but in general, it's like I said, it's getting worked on. Let's take a look at the APIs. It's the same thing kind of I've been doing in my application. It's from their real world example. So if it looks familiar, this is why, because I took my real world from theirs. So they have this get, put, post, quick can methods that are calling this send. This is the API I was just mentioning about production ready. And they're going to set the application type, stringify the data. If you have an authorization token, they're going to go ahead and set that. If it's server-side rendered or not, they're going to call this window fetch. Otherwise, if it's server-side, they're going to call it node fetch. And then they're going to make that request and return the parsed out data. So this is their real world here. So this is back to the registration page. If we go back over here, again, if you have a user and it's signed in, they're going to redirect you. Otherwise, you can load this page. They're going to grab your session from the store. The nice thing is that this is available directly now. You don't have to call that stores object like I showed you that other page had that bug for. they're going to make a post request to the auth register of that API endpoint, provided the username, email, and password. And then if you have a user, they're going to set it and redirect. And then form here, just like normal, they're going to go ahead and call that submit function above. So, and then they're going to bind, this is standard Svelte. They're going to bind a value to each of these for the username, email, password. And that is this page here. We have a list errors object, which is just going to iterate through keys and display each of those errors out. And let's see if I could try to get this to work again. Yeah, unexpected token T. Cannot read property body of undefined. Set header is not a function. Yeah, this is one of the issues I ran into when I kind of just very briefly played with it the other day. Is they had the set header, and I'm not sure where that was set at. Oh, it's under auth here. So auth, register. So it's kind of blowing up on this for some reason. Let me try this one with the PNP and see if that solves it. Okay. Oops. And we'll just do this, copy this. No. So still having that same issue on this set res header and their server side rendering thing. So there's some kind of issue here that they will resolve at some point. Again, it could be my machine, but I just checked this out last night, and some things seem to be working well and some things didn't. So, but I was able to get a logged in account eventually. I don't remember exactly how I ended up getting it, but so I would say just take a look at this one yourself. Maybe you could play around with it. It has a nice little, like I said, it's a real world example. So you have the ability to add articles, post things, update tags. Maybe I'll walk through this one after I have a chance to either fix it up a little bit for my local machine, or if they fix it in their example, and that way we can go ahead and explore it. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Again, a little longer than normal. I appreciate you guys being out here. We will make a migration video or two or something when I convert over a few of my sites, as well as the YouTube examples to get it going. We'll walk through all of that. The next few videos, again, we'll be using Sapper still until I get to a point where I have time to convert stuff over. In the meantime, have fun, explore, and I look forward to you guys next time. Like and subscribe. Thanks.